We record this conversation on Mondays. As we speak right now, the news about Brian Daboll being fired by the New York Giants is brand new, and we thought we would react to it here. Mel, my initial reaction was, this will be the most attractive job that comes available during this offseason, almost without exception. I guess there are a few places that could open up that we don't expect. But of the places that seem reasonable, this will be the job everybody wants, and there are two words that are the reason why. The first one is Jackson, and the second one is Dart.
Yes, when you have the young quarterback, obviously you got a big head start. Jackson Dart does on the rest of the league in terms of that position. But I think when you look at who's going to be the next head coach, who's going to be the guy coming in as that quarterback whisperer to keep this going in the right direction. Brian Daboll was there with Daniel Jones. He was there with Josh Allen. He's been there with Jackson Dart, right? And now you're going a different direction. Continuity, stability ain't going to be there, right? Now he's going to have to adjust to somebody else coming in. So for Jackson Dart, it's not going to have that in year two. So we'll see how it goes. Who's going to be that name? And if you look at the coordinators out there, who's the attractive guy? Well, you have to go for a grand slam, go for the home run hire. It's going to be really interesting to see, as you say, Greeny, a great job. Who's going to be the guy that ends up being that head coach for the New York Football Giants?
And let's talk about how this job has changed, I believe, perception-wise since last year. At this time last year, if the Giants' job had opened up, you're probably saying to yourself, like, this team and this quarterback situation is very bleak relative to the rest of our division, right? Jaden Daniels is completing this, maybe perhaps the best rookie season we have ever seen. We'll talk more about him in just a little bit. Jalen Hurts was, the Super Bowl MVP for the Eagles, who had dominated basically throughout the entirety of the playoffs. And Dak Prescott, for some of his foibles, $60 million per year quarterback, a guy who at the very least has shown his best version is a very difficult quarterback to slow down. He just needs a defense. The Giants now have some hope in the form of Jackson Dart. So this job will unequivocally have the eyes and the attention of people around the league. I know this may sound ridiculous to some, but there's cachet with the New York Giants job as well. This is one of the NFL's best franchises over the entire course of NFL history. Certainly one of the most respected franchises, and for a long time, it was one of the most patient franchises as well, right? Coaching turnover has been a recent theme for the Giants, with the likes of now Brian Daboll and Joe Judge and others that have come and gone in rather short order. But for a long time, they were known as an organization to be patient. That will have some appeal for prospective head coach candidates.
I'm thinking about names, and of course, there will be more that will come into the conversation, but I could see super high-profile current NFL coaches whose situations may be tenuous. I'm looking at Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Yeah, I could see that being a conversation that begins. And to be honest with you, Mel, I could see Lane Kiffin being a name that comes up in this conversation as well. Everyone's talking about Lane Kiffin going to LSU. Is he going to go to Florida? How about if he coaches his old protege? The NFL is the one place he has not conquered. He had a brief and not particularly successful tenure with the Raiders when he was, I think, younger than Field is now.
Yes, by a lot.
So I think it would be, I don't know. I don't know Lane Kiffin. I don't know if a jump back to the NFL would appeal to him. But the opportunity to go back with Jackson Dart, Mel, I think we're going to hear all that and more in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, and I feel nailed it with the division. That's what I'm all about, is closing that gap or getting to where you need to go, because you got to go toe-to-toe with those quarterbacks. You can't be a distant third, a distant fourth in your division. And with Jackson Dart, whoever the coach is looking at this job saying, boy, we're right there. Jaden had that great rookie year, fell back because of the injuries, obviously. You know what Dak Prescott is, and we know what Jalen Hurts is, Super Bowl winning quarterback. So we're not in the AFC, but we still in this division have some big-time quarterbacks. And now we have a guy, young quarterback, that we know can be that franchise guy. That gives you, as I say, a head start in terms of the rebuilding process or building this team back up to where they want to be. And keep in mind, they've been so close with Brian Daboll as a coach, so close to winning a lot of these games. They went yesterday. Are we talking about this today? No, right? So at the end of the day, Brian Daboll, and there's no excuses in this league. It's unforgiving. Everything's unforgiving. Scatterboo hurt. Then he had neighbors out, right? And he had those issues. Yet, hey, Brian Daboll didn't get it done. Let's go a different direction. I'd have created a little bit of a win-win. Said, I'll give you one more year, get it done. Let's have a draft and free agency and get guys healthy. Have some good luck there and see what you can do developing Jackson Dart. But if you're going to go a different direction, it's got to be, as I say, a grand slam or at worst a home run, because this is a job where a team comes in pretty much talent ready, quarterback ready, and I don't see coordinator I see people say Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels done a phenomenal job with Drake May as a head coach. Didn't get it done, right? So what do you do in terms of making sure that Jackson Dart progresses, not regresses? That's the key to this whole hire. It'll be really fascinating to see whether they do go for an established coach from somewhere else, a coordinator, college with Lane Kiffin. This is going to be a fun ride to see exactly who ends up being the head coach with the New York Football Giants.
I have two final thoughts on this, and then we can move to the main attraction of the show today. One is, and it's still early, it's only week 11 as we have this conversation, or the end of week 10. Not the sizzle of prior coaching cycles in terms of available candidates, right? Last year, it was just a matter of time before Ben Johnson got his head coaching job. Aaron Glenn in that same category. And there are other, of course, coaches that were hired that had a lot of appeal as well. This year, the candidate pool a little bit different, right? I think people are going to circle some names like Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator from the Chargers, Clint Kubiak, the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator, Chris Shula, the defensive coordinator for the Rams. There's not a guy who screams soon to be head coach like the two Lions coordinators did. The second point that I will make is Jackson Dart, at the time of this conversation, remains in the concussion protocol. The Giants have been playing kitchen sink offense of late. Run the football with Jackson Dart as much as is needed to keep this game competitive. As a matter of fact, he's the only rookie quarterback in NFL history with the rushing touchdown in 5 straight games. Yesterday, Greeny, was the 4th time that Jackson Dart was evaluated for a concussion. There were times where I felt like, if you're a coach coaching for your job, you're going to do whatever it takes to win. I wonder if the Giants, whenever Jackson Dart is ready and available for the rest of this season, play things a bit more conservatively with him as a runner, because as the Commanders can tell you, your quarterback is your most important asset, and keeping him healthy and upright is essential to the well-being of this franchise for the next decade.
100%. Listen, let's not get off on the tangent that I was yelling and screaming about on Get Up this morning. But the reality is, and Mel, you and I have had this conversation a million times, when you don't marry up the timeline of your coach and your young quarterback, you are making a mistake. So what you wind up with is this young kid who wants to throw his head quite literally into everything, and a head coach who is incentivized to let him do it because he's doing everything he can to try and win games now because he might get fired. And that is a terrible situation, and it's how you wind up where they are right now.
To that point, Greeny, we'll just put an exclamation point on all this. If I'm the ownership, general manager, and I'm talking about Daboll and all this, I'm letting him know that, hey, you're our guy moving forward for next year. If you're not going to do that and you're going to let this play out, and Brian Daboll's got to get, as they say, win games or he's going to be gone, that's not good. That's not a good situation to be in, because then you're handling things completely different than you would knowing if you're going to be back next year, that you are, in fact, going to be back. So if you're not going to give him that assurance, and they weren't going to obviously give it to him, then you got to cut the cord. You have to, as you said, because it doesn't add up. But if you would have said, okay, the win-win is getting him another year, let him know already, you're going to be back next year. End all the speculation. You're going to be back. You're our head coach. We want you to do with Jackson, what happened with Josh Allen, and we're going to win games. We're going to get healthy. We're going to be perfect next year. It's going to be really a great run next year. If you're not going to do that, then obviously this is the time to make that move. And like I say, don't put Jackson out there. And he's got to also protect himself too. Young quarterbacks have to grow into that mindset. Remember, he was stiff arming with his right hand down the field early in the year. He'll understand, hey, this isn't the SEC. This isn't preseason. I thought watching and learning early on would help him say, okay, I saw what happened in the preseason. Now the regular season's a lot different. So he had a chance to sit, watch, and learn for a little bit. But that competitiveness, you have to pick your spots. And a Jackson Dart hopefully will learn that.